script that I was imposed for a lot of time until that point. So I became curious about how this experience of birth, despite not being so positive, so ideal for me, and despite that being such a gate opener for a new found awareness and a new identity, how could be profoundly impactful, and how could that experience be key to how the artists that I was talking to at that time, to relate and to approach to the art, and to enter into this new experience, to enter the mothering experience, if that experience of birth wasn't so traumatic. So I've just started investigating into the potential for birth to be a gate opener and to be a positively impactful experience into someone's life, and specifically into the artists' lives, the artists that I was talking to. And so from pregnancy, I started talking about birth. I became a birth doula. And I thought about hearing about a lot of stories that had to do with trauma, especially with the first births. How creating a bridge and a conversation between the different people and practices that take care about people during this crucial time in their lives could be a vehicle for new understandings and shared knowledge. And so that's how Oxytocin came about in 2017. And we started from Oxytocin birthing the world. And the focus there was really about giving space to different choices, representations of pregnancy, of birth, and the postnatal period, creating a container where a lot of practices could come together, and being in a space where different manifestations from this experience could be shared and could be witnessed. We were at the Royal College of Art. And then going further, I realized, and we talked a lot about the biases that exist within the different systems that provide care. So we started looking into language, into LGBT plus rights, into reproduction politics. We started looking into race and disability. And so Oxytocin Mothering the World back in 2019 at King's College, and this year between Middlesex University and the Science Gallery, really wanted to create a space as well for all those experiences and all those concerns and hopes that we have for a better experience of birth for all the marginalized communities and all the stories that are still not heard enough. So after 3 editions of Oxytocin, I'm more and more convinced that art can be a powerful tool for learning and communication outside of what is often a greatly pressurized birth space and work environment within hospital institutions and beyond those spaces. A lot of times the people giving birth, including the 34 performance artists that have contributed to the 3 editions of Oxytocin in the past years, weren't in the position to communicate what was happening for them when they were in the birth room. It takes time, it takes processing. and in this case, art, to understand that for themselves and to communicate that to other people. So the element of the live art that I've decided to integrate within the context of Oxytocin, the Oxytocin platform, it's there because it brings the lived experiences at the center. It brings an element of ritual and healing practices that can be collectively shared and witnessed. So many of the performances that we have seen during the last 3 editions, also, and especially in the last one this year, brought also with them all the voices and experience of other people, integrating them in their piece of art, amplifying in that way the urge for services and systems providing care to listen. So these are some images of the work that I've contributed to the different programs. And what it has been incredible, it's that bringing these stories, these voices, this different manifestation of pain, joy, and birth, it's really brought people closer. Sometimes, or a lot of times, it takes the lived experience to live witnessing those experiences to get closer to a subject matter and to really get interested and engaged. And I think that I'm sure Laura will confirm the success of this platform is to really bring together different voices and bring a new platform where learning is not just on a script. Learning doesn't come from books, which have been also created with certain bias within words. The words that are used, the statistics that we use, the data that we collect. It brings together a new way to really reconnect to the human experience, reconnect to each other, and create a possibility for change, for a shift that starts from the inside, from the individual, and then a change that is brought into the collective through everyone's lives and work as carers. This was one of the works that we have experienced this year. And it was talking about Rubian's experience of giving birth as a Black woman migrant in this country. And it brought together a lot of other testimonials. And together with these works, art and this interdisciplinary platform have the power to also shift the visual narratives and the representations in media that we have of this experience. Or that's the hope. Within this platform, we've also decided to integrate practical workshop, like the maternal journal, which Laura will be talking about after me. Design making, art manifestos, poetry, and that brought within this context the opportunity not just for the artist to share and to use art as a tool for healing and processing and for voicing messages, but for all to experience the power of interdisciplinarity as a tool for collective healing and care. And thank you.
You're mute.
Wow, sorry about that. I had myself on mute. Thank you so much, Diana. That was absolutely incredible. And, you know, you had me transfixed for a while, and I was trying to think of all the things that I was trying to reflect on, some of the things that I've been learning over the past few years whilst listening to you. But that's really, really very, very interesting and stimulating presentation. And so for me, very revealing. Thank you very much. I hope we get plenty of questions. If you're listening now, just do write your questions and let us know, because we can ask Diana more about that, the things that you want to ask her. We can do that at the end. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Diana, for that wonderful talk. And now I take great pleasure in introducing my lovely friend, Laura. Laura Godfrey Isaacs is an artist, a wonderful midwife, and an award-winning author and health feminist. She combines her knowledge and experience in the arts and healthcare to bring fresh, creative and interdisciplinary perspectives to support reproductive rights and justice, as well as feminist readings of the body. And just as on a personal note from me to Laura, Laura's been an exceptional friend and supporter of me personally and my daughter Anna, and also all the work that we do. And she's got an enormous amount of courage, and the compassion in Laura just oozes out of her. She's one of my favourite people in all the world. So welcome to you, Laura. Please do feel ready to share your screen. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Sheena. Ooh, let's just find my presentation. Sorry, here we go. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of trouble with that. Just give me a sec. That's it.
You're okay, Laura. It's all good. Take your time.
That's fine. Okay. Right, that's fine. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's really lovely to be here because, you know, I've been working with Diana for quite a long time and working on oxytocin and also supporting everything that she's doing with Procreate. And she's a very inspiring person. And I think it's really great to have this opportunity to kind of share more her work on this platform, you know, particularly with the midwifery community. So some of you might know that I've sort of come into midwifery quite late personally. I retrained to be a midwife when I was 47. And previous to that, I had quite a long time working in the arts. So I worked as an artist, but also as an arts academic and as a creative producer. So I thought that I was leaving all of that behind actually when I retrained, because I was really happy to come into this profession, much like Diana, really very much driven by my own birth and kind of mothering experiences, and with this kind of motivation to want to, as an older person, sort of move into more of a caring, nourishing kind of profession where I'd be kind of supporting mothers and people who birth, and sort of bringing, you know, skills over from my previous life and profession, but very much kind of centering it around this new, you know, life, this new profession. But sort of, unfortunately, I couldn't really leave the arts behind, and it kind of creeps in. And even when I was training, I was kind of thinking all the time about artists and, oh, wow, it would be so interesting to kind of talk about this artist in relation to this issue that we're talking about, etc. And so kind of after I qualified, I started really kind of trying to bring the two things together. And sort of working with Diana has been one of those kind of really joyful positions where I've sort of been able to, you know, support what they're doing and kind of have this network of other people who are working in the arts very much around birth, and mothering and parenting and caring, and trying to sort of connect the dots, or trying to connect all those kind of different people that are in many ways working in the same kind of space, but coming at it from different positions with different, you know, genres, etc. So I suppose I kind of am really interested in this kind of arts and creative and interdisciplinary space. And some of the projects that I've kind of been working on have been part of this Oxytocin event, particularly the one that we just had last week and the week before. And as Diana was talking about, we've had these kind of practical workshops and also kind of panels with speakers, and that's the sort of thing that I've been concentrating on. So that's what I thought I would kind of talk about a bit in terms of what we did in Oxytocin, and also kind of examples of the way that the kind of arts and interdisciplinary kind of practices are very much working around all the themes that, you know, we as midwives are concerned about, is, you know, trying to create the best possible experience for people that are going through birth, trying to provide spaces for them to talk about their experiences and to, you know, create their own narratives, really. I can't seem to get my presentation to move. Oh dear. Oh dear. I'm having a moment here. That's it. Wonderful. So one of those projects, and I have talked about this in many different midwifery contexts, but part of Oxytocin, we did have a maternal journal workshop. So that's the project that I've been working on for a number of years now. And it's really about using journaling in the context of bringing people together into groups, encouraging their creativity, and using journaling prompts as a sort of means to really explore people's birth and mothering and caring experiences. So you can see here, I love this quote because it's from someone who took part in one of our journaling circles. And it's really focusing, the reason I chose it is because it's really focusing on how being introduced to artists and their work, and also then having that people's creativity being fostered and being supported in this way can be really inspiring and energy giving, as she says, and also provide confidence. And there's a lot of research at the moment that really shows how incredibly important being creative can be in your life, how it can not only be a pleasure to do, it can unlock experiences, it can help you process experiences, and it can also build, you know, energy, as she says here, and confidence. It also is a way of connecting with other people. So the benefits of being involved in creativity is really boundless. And there's another quote here where someone's talking about, you know, pregnancy and parenthood being such a big life experience, how you are changed forever, and how your identity changes, how you often sort of lose your identity and then have to rebuild yourself. And she's talking about how journaling can be an effective way for her to explore the challenges and experiences and the new identities found along the way. And I think that's true of any kind of creative activity. So within Oxytocin, we have these practical workshops. It's very much about supporting people's own creativity, but also you'll find a lot of performances which use lots of different strategies, you know, movement, dance, live art, and so, you know, often images as well. So it's kind of finding a way that a creative activity can really unlock your experiences. And I think seeing people's work around this theme of birth and mothering and parenting and caring is a way of often stimulating people to explore that in themselves. So just some lovely images I wanted to show you of people from journaling workshops. And I think that you can see here the sort of variety of ways that people are exploring their creativity. So they're writing, they're drawing, they're writing poems sometimes, as well as writing prose. You know, sometimes they're writing kind of this in this automatic way where we give them a prompt and they just respond very quickly. Other times we're using collage, which, as you can see on the left-hand side here, we're using bits of paper, could be coloured paper, it could be wrapping paper, you know, cards, Christmas cards you cut up, often things that you just have around in your house. You don't need fancy materials often to do the journaling activities or to explore your creativity. You don't need to have your own studio space, lots of time. Lots of the journaling prompts are very short, so that you can see here on the right-hand side, people journaling and writing in their journals, as well as looking after their children. So it's finding this kind of way of, multitasking. We know how busy mothers are, parents are, and so, finding kind of practical ways of exploring your creativity that don't take a lot of money, don't take a lot of time, don't take a lot of expertise, and we're supporting you along the way with all the journaling prompts, is the way that we've been able to sort of really roll this out, not only in the UK, but now globally. And we have sort of journaling groups running all over the world. You can see here on the right-hand side, journaling is often a very kind of communal activity. So sitting around a table with other people is a form of creating community. I think taking part in any group can be really beneficial, again, for your mental health and well-being. You feel part of a community, you're doing something alongside people, you're making friends, you're sharing experiences, you're having your own experiences acknowledged and mirrored back to you, you're being heard. These are all very, very powerful things. And on the left-hand side, this is actually Gemma, who is a specialist OT who works in a mother and baby unit. So journaling has also been happening in the most, kind of acute settings. So I think that's also a sort of interesting and a good demonstration of how creativity can be really healing and really powerful, in a context where people are, probably going through, the most kind of difficult experiences post-birth. So this is in a mother and baby unit. So journaling, as I've kind of been discussing in quite a roundabout way, is kind of any practice that you do in a regular way. So you might be more familiar with the idea of keeping a diary or sketchbook, but journaling really encapsulates any of those practices. And you can see on the right-hand side at the top, a display of journals. And again, you can see the variety of techniques from drawing to photography, sticking things into your journal, writing. So just any form of creativity you can kind of engage with in a journal. And as I was saying, being in a group allows you to really kind of start to unpack some of those incredible changes that happen, but particularly when you go through first pregnancy. So, Diana, again, reflecting back to what she was saying about that, often that first pregnancy, that first birth, there are just such enormous changes that are going on in your body physically, but also psychologically, socially. You're often thinking back, reflecting back to your own parenting, your own childhood. It's often a time of great leaps of imagination. You'll often have really vivid dreams, and, again, reflecting on what's happened to you yourself, and how you were parented, and looking forward to how you want to be a parent. So it's often a time when there's just kind of explosive amount of activity going on and a lot of imagination. Again, it's a time to hopefully find your tribe, find your community, and that connection and that community can be enormously supportive and powerful. And I think journaling and discussing what you're doing, and in a wider context, coming to an event like Oxytocin or other conferences where there's an opportunity to listen and talk with other people, it's often a time when we start to unpack those kind of cultural stereotypes around mothering and parenting and birth, and start to think about how we are often oppressed by those stereotypes, and how important it is to try and unpack them, see them for what they are, and develop your own kind of course through this experience in a sort of really authentic way. So, I mean, as we are all tonight together online, it's also possible, I think, to connect with people online. And a lot of journaling groups actually happen now online. That happened very much because of the pandemic, but actually it provides opportunity for connection. Some of these groups, people are joining from all over the world, which again is fascinating to hear how much we share, but also how we hear different perspectives from people that come from different cultural positions, and different places. And also what I love about this picture is how everyone looks so sort of proud of what they've created. So again, going back to the sort of power of creativity and how it can build confidence, self-esteem, and can lead you anywhere. The idea with maternal journal in many ways is that hopefully you get introduced to the idea through coming to a group, and then you take it forward into your life, and your journaling practice carries on as a means to explore your creativity, but also to support and boost your well-being. So a journaling group is a safe place where you can share your experiences, you can explore your creative expression, you can feel valued and heard. It's not about practical parenting, and you might often, and you do, surprise yourself with what you actually create. And those spaces are really for anyone who's been pregnant, given birth, or identifies as a mother, or a gender non-conforming or non-binary carer or grandparent. And you definitely don't need any creative skills to come along and start exploring your creativity. We use these guides, which are created mostly by artists, but lots of midwives as well have contributed, and other birth workers. So like this one that I've got here, it's a very simple exercise where you draw around your hand, and then you're invited to fill up the hand with all the ways that your hand does caring work. And that can be caring for yourself, caring for others, obviously, particularly for your children. And it's amazing. You can see just 2 examples here of how different and unique everybody's response is to that journaling prompt. We then share what everyone's done, and we get this wonderful kind of conversation going where everyone is sharing their own individual perspective. So the other workshop that I have kind of created, and we had at this Oxytocin event this week, is Birth Cafe. So this is based on the model of a death cafe, which some of you might be familiar with. So it's a very open event where people are encouraged to come, sit in small groups, and the invitation is that you talk about what birth means to you. And the reason I was interested in creating this platform is because I often feel conversations about birth are kind of seen as not important beyond the scope of people who have actually given birth. So mostly cis women, and also people that work in the profession, whereas much like death, we are all born. And so, you know, birth is incredibly important. How we give birth, but how also we are born can have and does have a lasting impact on a physical, psychosocial, cultural and spiritual life. And here again, I've got some examples of artists who I think take us beyond these kind of mechanistic interpretations of birth, the way that birth particularly is depicted in the media and has been kind of reduced to this kind of dramatic event, devoid of its wider significance. So, you know, just an image here from One Born Every Minute, where the way birth is depicted in the media now, you know, has become really reduced, I think, to a medical experience. People don't necessarily witness other people giving birth unless they are a doula or they've perhaps been a birth companion. And so our experience of birth is very much dictated by how it's portrayed in the media. So with Birth Cafe, it's really an attempt to invite people to come and talk about those wider meanings and significance of birth in all its complexity. So you can see some pictures here actually from the Oxytocin event, which was on Saturday the 20th, just past. So you can see on the left is to Anna Horn, who's a lovely doula who also ran a fantastic breastfeeding workshop. And on the right is a midwife that I met who came up for the event from Birmingham. And on the right, you can see the Birth Cafe. So quite similar to the Maternal Journal, we're sitting around a table together, but the invitation very much is to talk, is to say why you're there, why you were interested in attending, and then everyone goes around the table and inevitably conversations develop from there. And the rules as such are about very much respectful listening. So to think about how people might want to talk not only about births that they've had themselves, but they might want to talk about their own birth story. I think many people will know the story of their own birth, and sometimes it becomes this almost this kind of origin story, and sometimes it can be quite difficult, because perhaps your mother talked to you about that the birth was very difficult for her, for example, and that could have impacted, your relationship in some way. So we also invite people to think about perhaps their own birth story, and also then to lead into wider conversations about how birth is portrayed in our culture, its meanings. So that is a project which has run quite a few times, and I've run it also online as well as in person. And then just a very quick mention of the panels that we had at Oxytocin, and this exciting opportunity that has created, whereby, like the whole event itself, the panel speakers have been interdisciplinary. So for this event, we had two panels. One was talking about decolonizing maternity care, and some of the speakers you can see on the right-hand side. So Anna Horn, again, on the far right, Krishna, who is a trans artist of color, who's making a whole project about becoming pregnant as a trans person. He's a performance artist. And at the bottom was Amali, who you saw in a slide earlier, taking part in the maternal journal, but she spoke because her work is so interesting. She's an obstetrician, a gynecologist, but she has created these wonderful books where she uses, quite a poetic style of writing. She's collaborated with illustrators, and she also has done a lot of work about decolonizing not only maternity care, but also maternity curriculum. And on the left-hand side, we had a panel which was about the experiences of care for deaf and disabled people. And again, we had a panel. So at the top, there is Sahira, who's a deaf artist that I've worked with in Maternal Journal. And she was talking about her experiences being a deaf person giving birth, and some of the barriers that she's faced. It was chaired at the bottom here with the longer hair and the red jacket, by Hannah Bonham-Bowell, who's a disability activist, and she's a GP. And she was talking a lot about, being actually a disabled doctor, and also her own journey that she's now considering. She's a gay woman to go on her own pregnancy journey. And on the left was Tracy, who works with many organisations around rights for disabled mothers, in terms of the very high numbers of children that are actually taken into care from women who have disabilities. So it was very powerful listening to all of the advocacy work that she's doing around that. So that's not all the speakers, but just to give you a flavour of how exciting it was to bring these panels together, where, again, you're bringing people who are working around issues of pregnancy, birth and care, as artists, as activists, as healthcare professionals, and kind of generating these very rich conversations. So that is really just to give you a little sort of flavour of some of the work that I've been doing in this area, and that was presented at Oxytocin, and gave me the opportunity to bring this work, into this larger platform. So thank you, and I'm really happy to take any questions from people.
Unmute myself again. Thank you so much, Laura. Gosh, it's always an absolute pleasure to listen to you and to hear you talking about your creativity as well as your midwifing. And one of the things I wanted to ask you was if you have any thoughts or desires to come up to the north of England, either to the Midlands or the north, to share some of these amazing workshops, because I know a lot of what you've done, most of what you've done, I guess, has been in London. And I know that the rest of the country is probably desperate to have some of your openings, because I just think what you're doing is you're amplifying, you're supporting the amplification of many voices and breaking down so many barriers. And I know you can't do it because the ones of you who are already involved, you're already doing many, many things, but just in the future, whether you would consider that.
Well, just quickly to answer for myself, like both Birth Cafe and Maternal Journal are actually formats that are freely available online. So both of them, have websites and then you can access the formats. And Maternal Journal is rolled out all over the UK and globally. So we've got a big hub actually in Wakefield. So the Art House Wakefield in Wakefield have been running Maternal Journal workshops for about 18 months, and they're rolling it out actually with the NHS there. So, you know, that is a format that is really decentralized. And the same with Birth Cafe, you know, the format is freely available on the websites.
So anyone can do it. So anyone can do it. Great. Yeah.
I think actually I forgot to show the last slide that had all the links and everything. So I'll put them in the chat box, shall I? Will people be able to see? I don't know if they can see in the chat box, but
yeah, if
you can just find maternaljournal.org and birthcafe.org, both websites.
Yeah, we can include those in the post. When we share it, we can include those links. What struck me, I'm just going to sum everything up in a moment, but what struck me was I forgot to really thank midwives at the beginning of this session, and all maternity workers, obstetricians and student midwives and doulas, everyone for their enormous amount of work that they're doing at the moment with challenging times. You know, just to remember to really be grateful for those people that are working, including yourself, Laura. But what struck me with both of your talks was how what you were saying would support midwives and students and doulas and everybody working in the birth field, and not just those that are accessing services and giving birth. So there's so much support there, isn't there? Sort of, you know, the psychological support for individuals. So I was really thinking I should mention that. But we have one question that's come in already from the listeners. But just before that, I just wanted to kind of summarize some of the things you've said that have really kind of resonated with me. And what you said, Diana, was that which was wonderful, that you were kind of portraying the message that birth is a gate opener, and that your project is birthing the world, which I absolutely loved. You know, that was so fabulous for me to hear that. And that you're creating a space where different practices come together. And what you're hoping for is better experiences for birthing for marginalized communities. And that art is a powerful tool for expression, for learning, and also for healing as well, which of course we all need to know about that. And, you know, I'm learning so much from you guys. And that, you know, art is amplifying the need for what you're doing as well. Your whole project is amplifying the need for services to listen. And that learning isn't just in a script that because very often there's biases there, but it brings together a new way to reconnect and to create a possibility for change. So that's what I took away from your presentation. So thank you so much. And Laura, what you brought was to say that the benefits of creativity are boundless. And when you present your slides and what you've been doing, that comes across really, really clearly. And that journaling, which you taught me how to do, and I've been trying my best to do it. I keep forgetting though, but really, you know, challenges stereotypes. And, you know, your hand slides that you had with the different perspectives. I love that, because we've just been talking about midwives' hands and caring for women and birthing people and families, and how we use our hands for everything, through sense and through feel and touch, and, you know, the whole thing. So I love the hands one, and I'm going to do that myself, I think.
It's in the book. It's in the book.
I know it's in the book because I've got the book. Yeah, I know it's in the book.
In our book.
Yeah,
just a quick plug for the Maternal Journal book.
And you don't have to be maternal to use it, because I'm a grandmother and I'm using it for different reasons. So yeah, it's fantastic. So thank you so much, both of you. Just one question now that's come through already. One moment. It's from Kashmira Hawker, who said, do these creativity strategies reduce postnatal depression? Would you like to answer, Laura? Maybe both of you.
Yeah, I mean, Maternal Journal is used in you know, lots of different contexts. As I said, I showed how it's being used in, you know, mother and baby units where people obviously are suffering or experiencing very severe mental health issues. And it is being used by other NHS, you know, trusts, etc., within perinatal mental health services. So, you know, and then it's used in lots of other contexts with people that have given birth. So I think that, as I was saying, there's a lot of research that shows any creative activity has benefits for your mental health and well-being. It's not a sort of, you know, thing that's necessarily prescribed. I think it can be a tool alongside lots of other strategies. So I think any creative activity, but definitely taking part in a journaling group can be a very positive thing if you're having mental health issues, whether that's depression, anxiety, or if you are in a more severe context, you know, with people trained to support you with whatever condition you might be experiencing at that time. So I wouldn't say it's, you know, going to be on its own, you know, enough. If you have postnatal depression, you should definitely be under the care of a perinatal team. You should be getting support with your well-being and your mental health from those professionals. But a journaling group or journaling on your own will definitely be a positive thing for you to do.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything, Diana?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd just like to say that accessing a dedicated creative environment in the context of a community is also something that we offer with other platforms at Procreate Project, like the Mother House Studios, which is an artist studio with integrated childcare. We've witnessed the power of art as a healing tool for a lot of people. I guess that Oxytocin, what it's trying to do is to both provide a space for healing, but also to provide a space for eventually to get some change and to reduce the chances of having a traumatic birth and postnatal depression. And to that, I would also like to add that is not just about using art for people who have given birth to process their traumas and experiences, but it's also for care providers. And we have seen how oxytocin has been a really powerful tool for themselves to look after their mental health, which we talked about during Oxytocin, extremely important in order to be able to connect to people, to empathize. And so we've provided that space in which they could actually stop, reflect, and use those tools, that creativity, that is creativity and art making, to also process their own experiences of carers and witnesses.
Very good point.
Thank you. That's a really good point, and actually answers another question that's been proposed, which is Kate has said she's thinking that these forums would be very helpful for midwives and birth workers who need to be able to process their own trauma. This will contain their emotional capability to be able to provide this for women and birthing people, which, you know, you've actually addressed, and that's what I was alluding to as well, really, during my summing up, because I think we all need this, don't we? We all need some new ways of connecting and of releasing, like you say, and reflecting, and then pausing and reflecting, and then finding new ways of being able to express ourselves.
I mean, maternal journal, sorry, just to quickly add, has been, you know, one of the last times I saw you, Sheena, was at that midwifery student conference. Yes. Where I did a session, and we actually did that hand
yes, exactly,
together with student midwives. And so, yeah, I mean, it has been taken up quite a lot by student midwives and other birth workers, and many of our groups are actually run by doulas. So, you know, I presented at the doula conference. So, yeah, there's a lot of interest in how obviously birth workers can use it with whoever they're looking after, their clients, their women, their people they're looking after, but also for themselves.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that's great. Thank you both so much. And Kate also asked about how to access Birth Cafe and also Procreate and Maternal Journal, and the links are in the chat. So they're there in the links underneath. So hopefully, Kate, you'll be able to see those now. And it's time to sum up. Can you believe that an hour has gone already? Doesn't it go quick? Like
Yes, would it be okay to add just one quick thing on just the previous point? I just wanted to mention that one of the strategies of taking oxytocin and its interdisciplinarity into different institutions like the King's College, the RCA, the Science Gallery, and the Middlesex University, it was actually to really make sure that this platform and these tools reached also students, midwifery students and care providers. And so that's why we're not starting in one point, but we're really touring and trying to bring these contents and ways into different institutions, universities and contexts.
Thank you. So just to say one more time, I'm full of gratitude for you spending your whole evening with us tonight to share what you're doing, the fabulous work that you're doing to support the whole world, really, with your wonderful, expressions of art. And I appreciate that. And I also appreciate all the work that you're doing, as well as coming to tell us about it. So thank you very, very much for that. So just before we say goodbye to everybody, I just want to say that just a reminder to all those who are listening that the Maternity and Midwifery Forum has set up now this fundraising appeal so that they can continue during difficult financial climate to provide free resources to midwives, student midwives and all birth workers to help childbirth and child rearing to be the very best it can be. So these are amazing opportunities for us to come together like this evening, and it's everybody's given their time freely. It's all done, sort of voluntarily. So if you can gift any money, then there is the links are there to be able to do that. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you for joining us as the speakers, and thank you to all of you who've joined us tonight on the Maternity and Midwifery Hour. I really appreciate you being here, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this last hour. So thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Bye.